In a landmark ruling today, a judge said prosecutors will be allowed to introduce evidence that was gleaned from hairs that were found on the Gilgo victims' remains. That evidence was obtained through whole genome sequencing. And that's a first for New York. And it brings me back to the murder of little JonBenét Ramsey in Boulder, Colorado. John Ramsey, JonBenét's dad, has been relentless in his belief that advances in DNA technology will ultimately find his daughter's killer. And John Ramsey joins me now live. John, it's good to have you on the show again. Thanks for being here. I thought of you. Listen, today, immediately, I thought about you when the judge in the Long Island serial killing case said, okay, whole genome sequencing, it's in. So what was your reaction to that?
Well, you know, I had to study it a little bit to understand. I've been pushing forensic genetic genealogy research in our case for a while. And basically, it requires a different set of data than has been put into CODIS, which is a federal database. CODIS has 15 or 20 markers. If you match the markers, you're the bad guy. If you don't, you're out. There's no way to research genealogy and track this genealogy research program with that data. You've got to have this new data taken, new samples taken. And the way what has happened so far with these cases where old cold cases have been solved is they've used this technique of genome sampling and then built a family tree using usually the mother side of the family. And they go back and create a family tree going back X number of years, depending on how old the case is. And then they look who the relatives were. And there's in the first case that this was solved was a Golden State Killer case in California, and it was a 40-year-old case, cold case. Well, they found this guy that was a relative in the town where this crime was committed 40 years ago. Then they went and got his DNA, and the DNA matched the sample they have. And so, bingo, they found the killer. So it's a huge advance, and I believe it's the way our case will be solved. I think it's a really good chance it could be solved if it's implemented. And I learned recently that yes, you can get this data from a hair sample. We have several hair samples from JonBenét's crime scene that weren't identified. We donated hair and pubic hair. There's a pubic hair sample in JonBenét's blanket, not linked to anybody at this point. We know you can get a sample from that now. I've heard that before, and of course heard it in your program. So it's a huge tool to identify killers.
Let me ask you this. Given the fact that this whole genome sequencing is good enough to identify a 9/11 victim, right, from 24 years ago, and now the standard is being accepted in this massive case, the serial killer case in New York. I know that you've been meeting with the Boulder police about genetic genealogy, but do you think it might be worth going back and knocking on the door and saying, hey, look what they're doing in New York. What about this whole genome sequencing? Why don't we go this route as well?
Yeah, and we should. And I have another meeting set up with the chief of police. I've met with him in January. I've got another meeting in a week or so. And that's my message. We've got to use this technique. I firmly believe that it'll solve the case. If we do it and we don't get a solution, then by gosh, I'll give you guys credit. You did everything that technically can be done today. But it's a huge advance in the use of DNA technology. You know, the last DNA testing in our case was done about 8 or 9 years ago. Technology has advanced dramatically. This is a great example of that. And
is it ever?
It's an amazing tool. And so the difference that this tool provides is the ability to use DNA information to investigate a case. we've used DNA as a country evidence to convict. DNA matches, boom, we got you. Doesn't match, you're out. That's a pretty primitive use of DNA in today's world.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.